Oh baby, we are live, but we're letting it breathe because we gotta graft in the entirety of our listening family. And yeah, we're talking about Facebook. They want in on this action. And we're almost good, and we are. So welcome in everybody. It is the Huddle Up Podcast, presented as always by Mile High Huddle and powered by Blue Wire Podcast. I'm your host, Chad Jensen. With me is the producer in chief, Scott Kennedy, as Zach is taking a night off. Scott, bro, you reminded me. You were the one that brought it up. You said right before we went live, Chad, this is the first time it's just you and I on a podcast. And even though we've been on like a three-way pod with you, myself, and Zach. So what an auspicious debut for the Chad and Scott show. What's up, bud?
You know, just another day in paradise. It was about a year ago. It was about when I made my debut on this channel, talking first-round draft picks. And this was before free agency. And I asked you, I said, well, what are the needs? And I'll tell you who the players are. And you're like, corner, something, and corner. I'm like, all right, well, Pat Surtain's your guy. That's your guy.
That's right. Yeah.
And then felt, I guess, it was in agreement enough that you went and signed two corners and still drafted Pat Surtain. So that's how good Pat Surtain was. Is there another guy like that at 9 this year? Maybe. Maybe.
Well, on this podcast, we have a bona fide draft expert in Scott. He went to the Senior Bowl, got an up-close look at all those great prospects, and he was ear to the floor on all the scuttlebutt that we're going to get to here in just a minute. But Scott, as we kick off tonight's live stream pod, I wanted to get your take on a few things Broncos general manager George Paton told. It's very unusual for this to even come up, but he gave some time to the Denver Broncos team site, Eric Dalala, and he addressed the status, as it were, of multiple Bronco free agents, starting with linebacker duo Josey Jewell and A.J. Johnson. And I'll paraphrase it here. He said, I like both of them. The coaches have to watch them. I think it's a pretty good draft class. There's some guys here I really like, so it's kind of in flux because we could potentially sign Josey back, AJ back, and then you have some younger guys in the mix with Baron Browning, and Jonas Griffith, and some of the other guys that we have, close quote. Now, Scott,
I've been called worse. I promise you that.
I'm sure you have, but this isn't like some kind of, authoritative, here's what we're going to do, but this is a step in the direction of, no. Even though they're both injured, we have an interest in bringing back one of, if not both, Jewell and Johnson. Your thoughts?
First off, you always say good things about the players that run your team. Always. General Manager 101. You don't bad talk anybody else. And you, at worst, you might say, AJ might price out of our market. That would be about the worst you would hear a general manager say about a former anybody. Vic Fangio's leaving. Thank you for everything you did for us. We loved having you here. Good luck and everything. Maybe you want him back. You're going to hear positive things. So basically, he didn't really say anything there. Now, what's the speculation on this? I was incredibly impressed with Jonas Griffith last year, where he came from and the physical tools that he brings and the size. I like one of the two veterans. I think Josey Jewell was playing a little bit better last year, and I think he might be a little more willing to stick around Denver, where Alexander Johnson is, I can still get a big contract somewhere else. I don't think Josey is going to make the same kind of money that Alexander Johnson is on the open market. Right. He might be a little bit more willing to come back. And you remember one of the other things they said last year towards the tail end of the season was how impressed they were with Josey being there every day to work with the linebackers, the young linebackers, and the growth that he had. I think that was that may have been Kenny that was saying that last year. What a big help he's been. So I expect one. I don't expect both of them back.
Right. Yeah, you figure that Alexander has a little bit more of a higher ceiling in terms of earning potential. And honestly, it's like you just referenced that story that we learned that even though he was injured, even though that he was tore up and couldn't participate on the field, he was there mentoring that young room. And you know what? As much as we might want to credit Reggie Herring, the linebackers coach, who Nathaniel Hackett said thanks but no thanks for the emergence of Browning down the stretch, the emergence of Jonas Griffith, maybe there's a lot more there to kind of tip our cap for Josey Jewell. Unc Shea, we have a debut super chat from across the pond.
Mm-hmm.
Love seeing this. Appreciate that, my friend. He says, hey, guys, I'm just showing some love from Germany. I actually live in Frankfurt, home of the former Galaxy. So excited for the NFL to play a game in my city. Hashtag Denver Broncos for life. Well, Unc Shay, welcome. Appreciate you, my friend. Make sure you reach out and connect with us on Twitter. And it's really great, Scott, to see how far-reaching the tentacles of Broncos country really is.
I think that's one of my favorite things about the Broncos for Breakfast show is the overseas guys that are coming in at lunchtime for them, and Cambodia, England, Germany, and we see the Sweden. I've seen Sweden come through this pod before, so we've seen a lot of south of the border from Mexico, Brazil, all kinds of things. So what's the line? I'm going to tee you up. What do we say about Broncos country?
Baby, it is not a geographic location. It's a state of being. That's what it is. It's wherever you are.
All right. Well, UNC, I don't know if it's UNC or UNC. UNC, in my neck of the woods down in the south here, that's UNC Tar Heels. UNC Shea, appreciate you. I can't wait to get over to Germany. I'm actually a huge soccer fan. Most folks know that. I want to go actually to I want to see Dortmund. I want to see Borussia Dortmund. I want to go see that yellow and black wave there for sure. So can't wait to get over there. I've been all over Europe, but I've not been to Germany.
Scott, when you brought up soccer, you have no idea how badly I was resisting nodding off to sleep just barely. For
just
real.
By saying it. I guarantee you, if I took you to a Borussia Dortmund game, you'd have fun.
You're probably right. I keep being
fun.
told I need to get out to a pro soccer game somewhere, some football, as the Europeans would call it. Rod TV. Appreciate you, my friend. Thank you. It's great to see you. Been with us a long time as a Super Chat superstar. He says, if we get Aaron Rodgers and want to win now, I would love for us to get a veteran corner like Stephon Gilmore to pair with Surtain. Scott, I don't know how much you spent kind of watching Gilmore last year, but your thoughts on Gilmore, and then there's this kind of triggered a topic I want to bring up relative to A-Rod.
Well, last year when Gilmore was cut, I knew he was from South Carolina. He's like from Rock Hill, South Carolina, which is right close to Carolina Panthers. Carolina Panthers were off to a good start. So when Gilmore is cut, you've got a team that's close to home who is winning. You only need two of those three for a winning team and an opportunity where you can pick up guys like Gilmore. You can pick up guys like OBJ, who goes and plays half a season for the Rams on a song. If you've got if the players believe that I got a chance to win a ring, they're willing for that short-term deal. The Patriots have made a living on it. Now they've signed more veteran free agents for low money deals than anybody.
Right.
Because hey, I want to go play with Tom Brady for a year. Maybe I can get a ring. So you get Aaron Rodgers, you got a chance to bring in some guys like that who are coming off one of your deals who might want to come in and see if I can be part of something special for a season towards the tail end of my career and still have something to contribute.
On the subject of Aaron Rodgers, he attended, I forget what the actual benefit, pro-am, whatever it was, but golf tournament in Arizona. And there was a gaggle of Broncos fans hollering after he would swing, hey, come to Denver, Aaron. And there's a video.
Really travels mile high.
That's right.
Another 20 yards on your drive up here.
Dude, there's a video going around of him teeing off, and then you hear, come to Denver, Aaron, come to Denver. And then the subtext of the tweet says, and then Aaron says, we'll see. But if you actually watch the video, unless there was someone there reporting that's what they heard Aaron say, I don't know. But in the video, you hear the calls for Denver. You definitely don't hear Aaron Rodgers say a damn word. But be that as it may, maybe he did say it at another time, or someone close as a reporter was, passing it on. But nevertheless, it feels like Aaron is kind of doing his part to keep that A-Rod to Denver possibility, the rumor, keeping that thread alive. Options
are good. Having options are good, especially in a sport like this. Someone must have just come in with huge stars, because I just my whole screen just went crazy over here. So we'll have to see as I scroll down.
All right.
But he wants to keep his options open. Absolutely. He's not just closing any doors. I mean, that's just not good business.
It'll be interesting to see how it shakes out. We got Travis Tarbox in the house. Appreciate you, big dog. He says, "Evening, fellas. Just my thoughts on the ownership situation. I hope whoever the new owner is, they love the Broncos as much as Mr. Bolin did and puts them in the best position to get back to winning. Denver Broncos for life." So on that topic, last time we were on was Monday night. Yesterday, Tuesday, news broke that, and it kind of feels like the NFL is asserting this cat. And by the NFL, I don't just mean Roger Goodell, but owners like Robert Kraft around the league asserting Byron Allen, who is black, and he's a former stand-up comic that became a very, very wealthy, for lack of a better term, media tycoon, media mogul. However, Scott, as I did my research writing up the official Bloomberg article reporting that his statement and his intention to make a bid on the Broncos, I'm like, what's this cat worth? Because I was like literally typing it up. Billionaire, that was like my rough headline before I published. And I'm like, I better go verify what this cat's worth because Bloomberg makes no mention of it. I go look it up. Best estimate from some of those like ridiculous, celebrity net worth sites or whatever, 450 million, which, hey, it's a lot of lettuce to the average Joe, but relative to the
10% down payment.
Yeah, exactly. The Broncos are expected to sell for somewhere around $4 billion. So he would need to come up with 10 times what his net worth is. But then he put out a statement today through Mike Kliss of 9 News. And then I want to serve this over to you, Scott, that basically said, look, this is America. One thing America, I'm paraphrasing, does not have in short supply is money. There's plenty of people out there. I'm going to put together some investors to join me on this bid. So he's going to kind of be the majority owner, I would assume, in this scenario. But he's black. He's funny. That's good, right? He's got a sense of humor. And it sounds like he has a genuine desire to throw in with the NFL as an owner.
Yeah, as far as, there's money to go around. You don't have to have all that money. You can find somebody, if I'm willing to put up $500 million of my own as collateral, so to speak, it's like a house loan. If I'm dropping 5%, I can get the rest from the bank. Now, there's banks out there that can come up with that kind of money that would love. Banks don't like risk, but the thing is, an NFL franchise isn't much risk. It's an appreciating asset. So if you can get in, it's a safe bet, even if the bank has to auction the thing off in a couple of years. But you let me know the next owner that goes bankrupt, that'll be news to me. When owners talk about, hey, we lost $60 million this year, they talk about losing that from profit. That means we only made $400 million this year instead of $460 like we did last year. So they report that as we lost $60 million. So Byron Allen's exactly right. If I've got enough to get my foot in the door, I can get the help to get this done.
Check out his actual comment to Bloomberg. Quote, NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell and New England Patriots owner Robert Kraft came to me in November of 2019 and asked me to take a good look at buying an NFL team. Allen, chairman and chief executive officer at Allen Media Group, said in a statement in response to inquiries about his interest in the Broncos, quote, and after serious consideration, I strongly believe I can effectuate positive changes throughout the league. And for that reason, I will be making a bid for the Denver Broncos. Now, he would, if successful in his bid, and that's a big if. I know the NFL is going to try and grease the wheels in his direction. As just reading between the lines of what Roger Goodell said today about it. But, he would be the first black owner in the NFL, which would be a great development overall. I love it. But it's a misnomer to say he would be the first minority owner because Shad Khan. So your thoughts on the idea of Goodell and Robert Kraft coming to him with hatching a plan to, get in on this NFL business?
Well, the whole thing when we talk about, minority coaches and all this type of stuff is, well, when you run a monopoly, what's the first word in monopoly? Mono. It means one. Monomonopoly, but not monochromatic. It's a billionaire boys club, without a doubt. It's a closed league. It's basically illegal if you break it right down. I mean, the antitrust thing, they got found guilty of antitrust once and they had to pay $1 for it. But they've got enough money and power and influence to basically run a monopoly in this country, which like I said, is basically illegal. So it's a fraternity, and it's anti-American, so they're having to step outside of their billionaire boys club and who they've been comfortable with in order to change the optics a little bit. Now, Chad, I know you don't care, but what would be really nice if there was an actual merit-based system where people could earn their way into this league instead of buying their way into this league. But that's not what this league's all about.
I like this guy, though. I actually went back and did some research on him as a comedian, and he had multiple appearances on the Tonight Show starring Johnny Carson back in the day. So he's an intriguing option. And here's how I look at it: the whole earning it thing. Look, if the dude was innovative and hardworking enough to scratch together $450 million on a media empire. And that gives him a foot in the door to potentially buy an NFL team. Hey, man, sweat off your brow. That put you in position to become an NFL owner. More power to you type thing. But he's going to have to ice out, from what we've heard in reports, 6 to 7 other buying groups interested in swooping in on this.
Yeah, and when I say earn it, again, grab some coffee or something real quick. But in other leagues in this world, you and I could start a team and we could earn our way by winning into the top league. We could earn our way by winning into the top league. You can't do that in the NFL. And it's a buy your way in. Once I'm in, it doesn't really matter what I do as long as I don't embarrass the league. I can lose 20 straight years. I don't have to have much ambition. And like I said, that really rubs me the wrong way. And and then we're gonna reward you for losing. And then you wonder why stories come out that, hey, you need to lose this game.
Right.
You're incentivizing losing. What do you expect people to do?
Well, and it sounds like, Scott, just based on I know that all Roger Goodell was doing was answering questions that were fielded to him by the media scrum at the Super Bowl. But it sounds like if there is some veracity to Brian Flores' claims, and by veracity, I mean any evidentiary trail whatsoever, 31 other NFL owners are going to go ahead and vote him out of the league. And that can be done, according to Goodell. You can be 86 by your fellow brethren.
Mm-hmm.
It's a league. It's
a fraternity. It's the billionaire boys club. I mean, it absolutely is. And again, some diversity and some diversity would be wonderful. Would be wonderful in that. And not just this, but in anything. The groupthink it's dangerous. I've said for years, I think that the NFL has reached critical mass where they just for a while just started taking their audience for granted. Maybe they hadn't, because the NFL still keeps getting bigger. But if you keep doing enough things that make people mad, you'll lose some traction to some people. And Kevin coming in with a big super, we appreciate it. And there's actually one coming in from Wyatt, because I'm gonna piggyback right on that one after this. Getting back to some of the free agent talk. It says Browning and Griffith are a must. Outlaw Josie played his best ball before his injury this past year. He's a smart player. Again, and you can't have too many of these guys, don't get me wrong, but even as a mentor to some of these young guys. Yesterday on Broncos for Breakfast, we talked about, and then actually Carl brought it up again last night, on the coaching staff. There's a lot of first-time guys on this coaching staff that makes me a little nervous. A little bit. Makes me a little nervous.
Yep.
Yeah, you want some youth and some energy and all that kind of stuff, but did you tilt the balance too far the other direction from the old curmudgeon-y guys that are, lifers? We'll see. So I like the youthful linebacking core that we saw starting to blossom last year, but having a guy like Josie come in and be the old head for not a ton of money, I think is a really, really good idea. Appreciate you, Kevin, with the super coming in.
You get a little player and coach combined in Josie Jewell. And the upside, if it's the right production on the field to that, can be tremendous. Like Teddy Bridgewater, for example. He doesn't get a lot of credit on the Huddle Up podcast, and we could go down the roads of why that might be. But the one thing I won't take away from Teddy is he wasn't one of those well-paid vets. And by well-paid, I understand his contract. The Broncos took on that portion of it. Didn't make him – he wasn't even in the top 15 highest-paid quarterbacks in the NFL. But a veteran making 10 times as much as the next guy on his depth chart, most quarterbacks, established names in the league, Scott, they're not going out there and trying to as Joe Flacco would say, help the guy behind me take my job. I'm not going to teach him the things I know. But Teddy did just that for Drew and for Brett Rippon. Anytime Drew Lock was asked about Teddy Bridgewater, he just gushed, and he would gush. You could tell it was a genuine respect and a genuine appreciation. And the only unfortunate aspect to that, Scott, was the congruency. There was it didn't correspond per se to the field in terms of results. And that's why Teddy Bridgewater is unlikely to be playing ball in Denver here in the near future. But Wyatt says, Jewel, in my opinion, for the vet that needs to be back. Better linebackers, a better linebacker, one of the most underrated players on the team, a true leader on defense and the team. Hashtag Broncos and Hawkeyes. He definitely took a big step forward, Scott, last year in those few games he played for the Broncos before he got hurt. It was looking like he maybe had turned a corner, but it was such a small sample size, it's hard to really hang your hat on that.
Yeah, and you talk about the competition. It's like, oh, well, Teddy Bridgewater was great until he played somebody, the first 3 games of the season. So was that Jewel? I don't think so, because the speed, I was coming into the season, blank slate. I'd never watched Josie Jewell play football, call it ignorance or anything. Like, why are we listening to this guy then? Well, because give me a game. And what I saw was, what I heard is, okay, he's a good north-south guy, run plugger. He'll do a job. What I saw was a guy that could get out to the flats, and his lateral quickness was definitely underrated. And I was like, y'all have something here. I don't know why he's been talked down. He's really good. He can get out in coverage. He can protect the edge, get to the corners, and make sure you're taking out that sweep or anything like that. And then he goes down, and that hurt for sure. But thank you for the stars. And Shane coming in saying, good evening, Scott and Chad, or Chad and Scott. Outside of quarterback, is there anyone in free agency you would target for an immediate upgrade for the team outside of signing our free agents? Of course, I'd go right tackle. That I'd look at right tackle and I'd look at edge. I think you might be able to go right tackle. Now, when I'm in the background and Chad brings up the right tackles, I'm always screaming, look at the left tackles too, because these guys don't know how to classify them.
Right. It's true.
So look at the offensive tackles, look at all of them, and not just the right tackles, because there might be 6 or 7 of them. But I went through an entire list, and half the guys that were listed as left tackle play right tackle. And if you get a guy that's not quite good enough to start at left tackle for somebody, he might be a decent right tackle. So I'd look at tackle. I'd look at edge. There's a kid in Pittsburgh, I believe. His name's Chucks. I can't remember his name off the top of my head. We'll have to I'll have to look it up in a second. He was like 25, 26 and had a really good year this year. I would imagine he might get one of those tenders or something like that. But as far as young guys, that might be one I'd look at pretty quickly. But I think right tackle. My question with George Paton last year was, could you have done any better? It's nice to have a bunch of salary cap room, but if you're not going to spend it and you've got a hole, why? Why do you have a hole? Why do you still have a hole at right tackle when you've got all this money? And there were answers. There were answers for that. But that's where I'd go. I think that'd probably be the easiest place to upgrade in free agency is right tackle.
The one name that I still am intrigued about, and I don't know what the latest is on his, does he still want to keep playing football? He spent all of 2021 out of the league. That's Mitchell Schwartz, right? The Chiefs cut him. Let me see. Chiefs cut him in March of 2021 after he had, was it back surgery, Scott? I want to say, I'm pretty sure it was late in the football season, or, I think it was like January. He had back surgery anyway, but he, licking his wounds, recovering out there. You're talking about as good as it got for about 5 years in the NFL, right tackle. If he's still in football shape, if he still wants to keep playing, I'm picking up the phone. I'm calling Mitchell Schwartz to see what's up. Wilson the Ghost, that's a newer name on Super Chat. Maybe not the very, very first time, but welcome. Appreciate you. Do you believe, says Wilson the Ghost, there's one single free agent signing that George Paton could target that elevates our team to a playoff caliber? No, I do not. Scott?
A single free agent signing? No, because I don't think their quarterback's out there. You know, that's the one spot. It's Chuck Sikora 24 years old, 1,000 snaps, 2 sacks with an immobile statue of a quarterback. Now, that doesn't mean that Ben Roethlisberger can't get rid of the ball quickly, and historically he's been tough to sack. But 24 years old, 1,000 snaps, 2 sacks at right tackle. Yeah, that's my guy. That's my guy.
Travis Tarbox says, Chad, you're definitely one of the priests, no doubt. I got to give it to Scott. Being a Falcons guy, I had my doubts, but he's definitely won me over. Scott is a football guy. That's what Scott is. You know, Scott is he's a legend in Mile High Huddle already, and he's only been in Mile High Huddle, the community, for what, as you mentioned, Scott, about a year now. But Scott was kind of my boss, guys, for a long time. Kind of. I mean, it doesn't exactly work like that when
it was a nice symbiotic relationship. I once had one of the guys like you, Chad, say, 'cause I was like, my job was to make sure that Chad was successful. Right. That was my job. So in that state of mind, I thought, you know, I'm basically working for him.
But without
somebody say to me,
you're responsible.
I said, I'm not your boss. It was Brooks. Brooks Austin. He goes, I go, dude, I'm not your boss. And he goes, could you kick me off the network? I said, yeah. And he goes, well, then you're my boss.
Exactly. But Scott is, you know, MHH probably wouldn't be on the Sports Illustrated / Fan Nation network without Scott. So anyway, Tommy, Drew Lock, and use picks to build a team. This is not a strategy that I find repugnant. I can get into this. Now, look, I'm not saying that should necessarily be plan A, because as long as Aaron Rodgers is dangling out there, Scott, as a possibility, I think it's incumbent upon, especially now that Nathaniel Hackett is your head coach, it is incumbent upon George Paton to see that through till the bitter end. Barring an Aaron Rodgers miracle, Kyler Murray's not going anywhere, guys. Barring an Aaron Rodgers miracle, looking at this quarterback class, there's some intriguing guys there, but they're all very similar to Drew Lock circa 2019, where there's a lot of things about them that you like, but they also have a lot of warts. There's no one guy that's really shining as that, you know, give you the warm and fuzzies in the stomach guy in the first round. And so unless that evaluation changes, for me anyway, you miss on Aaron, or Aaron stays in Green Bay, whatever, I'm all about, hey, use your 5 top 100 picks in this draft, go finish building this team, go all in on the upside of Drew being unlocked, pun intended, by Nathaniel Hackett.
So I'm on the back end of these conversations a lot, and I'm usually yelling into the microphone that's muted, saying a couple of things. So I'm going to get the chance to make a couple of points on this one. One, Drew Lock's got 1 year left on his contract. What if Drew Lock says, I have a good season, and you know what? I've had enough. I want a fresh start somewhere. There's that risk. The other risk is Drew Lock has to make a quantum leap to become a good NFL quarterback, a quantum leap. He hasn't been there by any stretch of the imagination. The talk this year is like, well, he would play really well down the stretch, in his 4 starts. No, he didn't. He didn't turn the ball over. He threw 1 touchdown in 4 games. He didn't get an interception. And all of a sudden, our standards have dropped so low for quarterback play in Denver that we're building that up to something that it wasn't.
Probably true.
It wasn't. And finally, as far as Drew Lock goes, those are the two main ones I had, and I've got a third one here somewhere. And then the talking about T-Man coming in, I'll read his super, and it'll come back to me. So what about starting Lock next season and drafting a quarterback in the 2nd round and draft a QB in the 1st round next year? I like Desmond Ridder in this type of scenario. The Cincinnati quarterback that has really nice, good feet, ran for 2,100 yards in his career, good mobility, nice arm, little erratic. That's okay. So I think that would be, if he's around in the 3rd and you grab him and you let him develop, best man win, give him a year. But again, the problem is if you run with Drew Lock, there's no guarantee that even if he plays well, that he wants to resign. You may be able to figure out ways to keep him around, but you're not going to franchise the guy. You're not going to put a $25 million tag on him. No way.
No.
So there are so many risks right now at quarterback and so many questions at quarterback. That's why you hear me get very passionate talking about if you can get Aaron Rodgers for a reasonable, even somewhat unreasonable price, you do it. Well, then then we're right back here in 4 years. So what? You might be crappy for 4 years and still be right there in 4 years. With a legit quarterback, it's a known. It's as close to a known quantity as you're going to get in this game. Yes.
So many parallels, honestly, to Aaron Rodgers and Peyton Manning, not just because of where he's currently at in his NFL career, but in terms of possibly moving on to another NFL team. But because, Peyton was known as the quarterback that couldn't win the big one. Mm-hmm. And then he finally got the big one. And then, he was a guaranteed playoff berth every year, just like Aaron is. But for a long time after that, Colts just couldn't get over the hump from 2006 through 2011. And it's very similar with Rodgers. And yet Peyton kept stacking the accolades, right? 4 MVP awards he won as a Colt. Just kept stacking it, just like Aaron is. Something about the Denver Broncos, there's just a magic, there's just a juice about this organization. I don't have really much doubt that if Aaron came here, especially, it'd be like putting on an old pair of shoes that you wore for the last 3 years, because Nathaniel Hackett's here, dude. It's like, hey, pick up where we left off. Let's go. Only fresh start. You're in a new football environment. You got new fans. You're going against new divisional opponents twice a year. Like, everything is new, and that can really lift a guy, as we saw it do for Peyton Manning. Look, Peyton was good. He was Hall of Fame good. If he would have never come to Denver, he was still going to the Hall of Fame, all that stuff. But from 2012 through 14, and I know 15 he fell off and won the Super Bowl, but 12, 13, and 14, that 3-year window alone, go look at his stats, guys. Just be a box score scout for just a second on this topic. He was more prolific. He didn't have a more prolific 3-year window than that in his entire career. And I think that, fresh start aspect, the organization as the Broncos are, and the kind of juice and magic that conjures, it did something to lift him. And I don't have very many doubts at all, Scott, barring health. The same could happen if Aaron Rodgers landed here, but so many ifs. This isn't, hey, let's go outcompete all other comers with just the best offer to a quarterback. You have to get the Packers to sign off, and that's going to be a tall task.
Yeah, it's not just recruiting one guy. It's convincing them. That's why I say it's got to be reasonable. The report, four first-round picks. Well, that's impossible anyway. You're not allowed to trade 4 years into the future anyway. So you only have 3 to trade. 3's too much for me. I wouldn't give up 3 first-round picks, even if I knew I was going to get him for 3 years, and I could start over in 1 year. If I could start over, like, I get him for 3 years, and then as soon as he retires, I got my first-round pick. Then I draft my quarterback. That's still too rich for me. Now, 2 first-round picks and maybe throw in something here. Yeah, I'd very seriously consider that. Leaf coming in, saying, good evening, everyone. I'm stoked to catch a live show. Well, we're glad you're here and see you two together. Chad and I have never been in the same room together. I've known Chad for going on 10 years. I don't think we've ever been in the same room together. That's going to change this year. Very cool question. Peyton seems to do what he says and was talking up the big guys in this draft. Who do you think he's got his eyes on, assuming we keep our picks? Top 3, assuming we keep our picks. Oh, you could upgrade right tackle in a hurry. People say, is there a right tackle? You're not drafting for right tackle at 9. You're drafting best tackle, and he might play right tackle, and he might shift over to left tackle depending on what you do with your left tackle. Jake Matthews and Josie Jewell are the only guys that come. Bowles, thank you. Garrett Bowles.
There you go.
Depending on what you do with Garrett Bowles, you draft best tackle, and you put your best 2 tackles on the field. So Charles Cross from Mississippi State could be there. Trevor Penning, Northern Iowa, is a guy.
A Bolesian bully.
Could end up in that spot at right tackle. If Ikem Ekwonu slides down, Evan Neal probably won't. Ikem probably won't either. But you've got a chance to upgrade the right tackle position in a hurry. And again, it's like, well, you don't want to spend that high pick on a right tackle. No. Cross out of your mind. You're spending it on a young offensive tackle. That's okay with me. Appreciate the question, Leaf.
Or
and
edge. Your edge guys.
Because I told you my screen. I've got a second screen over here where I keep a look on Facebook, and it blew up. It showed like rainbows and stuff all over the place over here. It was from Mr. Mize. It was Joshua Mize coming in with 4,465 stars. That's the biggest one I can remember in a while, Chad.
Joshua, you're a legend. Appreciate you, big dog. And I also, just real quick, it's not stars. I just want to shout out Lane Meyer on Facebook. Appreciate the love, my dog. Question here from Nathan. And thank you for that super chat, my friend. Any chance we get an MHH at Radio Row the next time Denver's in the Super Bowl? Take some political greasing of the wheels to get that done. But on that topic, without betraying too much, there's a chance you could get a version of MHH on Radio Row at next year's Super Bowl. I don't know how much I should say on this, but the network, our site is on. All right. The topic has been broached. I'll just leave it at that. I'm not all that interested in doing it, to be frank with you, but if they wanted me to do it, I'd go do it. But what we are going to be doing for show, Rodney, you demand, good to see you. Thank you for the stars. And also Michael Ronquillo. What we are doing for sure is the meet and greet at the 2022 NFL Draft in Las Vegas. As it gets a little bit closer, we will be unveiling the specific details, but the plan is to rent a conference room at one of the hotel casinos close to the action, if not the very hotel casino where the action's taking place, and hang out basically like a tailgate outside the tailgate like we did at the Bronco game in week 3 this past season. So, hey, if you're anywhere in the near vicinity of Vegas, start making plans. And it'd be great to see guys like Dennis Woods hopping on an airplane from Michigan, flying into Sin City. We got legends that came from all over, not only the fruited plains, Scott, but like Hawaii. We had people come from Mexico for the meet and greet. We had people come from Europe. It was really, really cool at the actual Bronco game. But one of the big draws there wasn't just us. Yeah, they got to come see us, and that was rad. But then the side benefit was they got to go to the game. So this one would be a little bit different in that, you're coming to see us. We want to see you, though. So, Dennis, appreciate you, big dog. So, speaking of Rodgers, when would you guess a transaction might be made before free agency, before the draft? Probably, I remember the Joe Flacco thing from 2019. If I'm not mistaken, it was like end of January, beginning of February that a report broke. It might have been right after the Super Bowl. I'm trying to remember the logistics, but it was seriously, if not tail end of the NFL season, playoffs and all that, the first week after the Super Bowl. It was within that window. Reports Broncos have an agreement in principle with Baltimore, 4th round pick. They're going to bring Joe Flacco. So it could be sooner than you might think, but at worst, Scott, it's probably the longest would be draft time, approaching the draft, but kind of circle the new league year.
Rodgers has said he wants to do it before free agency out of respect to both the Packers and his good friend Davante Adams. So it'll help him make a decision. So again, him saying, I want to go makes it easier, but it still doesn't mean it's going to happen. Right. The Packers still have to say, okay, we're going to let him go. Here's what it's going to cost you. And then the Broncos or another team would have to say, yeah, we're willing to pay that. Michaela coming in. Appreciate you being patient on here, Michaela.
The Duchess.
Normally when I see red, I go straight to red for sure. But this one took me a little bit longer to get to. Wanted to spread some love to the family, and we appreciate it. I wouldn't mind him as our owner, getting back to the Byron Allen talk, even though it would be nice to have Paton, mile high huddle forever. Again, it'd be, I can't say again because I don't think I made this point, but it'd be interesting. It'd be more fun to have somebody that isn't just looking at the Broncos as a line on a spreadsheet. Mm-hmm. Some spreadsheets get awfully big, and I know you're talking about $5 billion, but when you're talking about Liberty Media, I'll throw it back to baseball. Liberty Media owns the Braves, and they don't care. They don't care. They hire people that care, which is good. But, I guess it's better than having, the Daniel Snyders of the world. But it would be fun to have somebody that bought into it because they were passionate about it, and not just because it's sure $1 billion of profit. Which, that's nice also.
Here's the thing. Bronco fans have been spoiled since 1984. Pat Bowlen, 84 through, I'll just say 2015, because then he stepped down as active going into the building every day in 2014. So he had a good run there, and we were spoiled because this was all he cared about. He made a bunch of money in his life before the league, and when he got into the league, all he cared about was competing and winning world championships. And he also cared about the league itself. He was one of the reasons he's in the Hall now, and it sucks that it happened posthumously, but one of the reasons why, not just because of how successful his franchise was, but the role he played in the advancement and proliferation of the NFL becoming a 12, 13, $14 billion annual nut. And basically completely taking over and consuming the pro sports landscape on media. He played a big role in that. Those are big shoes to fill if you're Byron Allen, or if you're Peyton Manning, or if you're John Elway, or any, face of the whatever buying group comes in, and it's probably going to be a group that ends up buying the Broncos. So high standards, Scott, high expectations. I don't know enough yet about Byron Allen to be able to tell you what's in this man's heart and soul relative to his ambitions for the Broncos, but it sounds like just based off his public-facing posture that his heart's at least in the right place.
Well, and you don't mess with, unless you plan on making or keeping or promoting the team, you don't mess with people's sports teams. You just don't. That's anybody coming in, it's like, okay, we want to make this. I would like to think we would like to make this team better. We'd like to make this team. I would like to appreciate my asset, at the very least. And he comes in, he says, having change within the league, again, making things more fair for everybody is a big start. I want to hit Travis real quick. It says, read today they're going to have an NFL game in Frankfurt. And we had our from Unc Shay came in from near there with a nice super this already today. So thank you again. And Travis, thank you for the stars. Is it possible to have expansion overseas in the future? Possible, yes.
Practical.
But I think you're better off seeing more of like a separate league, not necessarily NFL Europe, but kind of. And then, maybe have a World Bowl, if you're thinking, and I don't think this is going to happen anytime in our lifetime and the next generation, but I think we'll see a team in Mexico before we'll see a team in Europe. It's just too hard for the West Coast teams, to get over and play a team in Frankfurt, Germany. With doing that, as a, once every couple of years to go over to London and play is one thing. To go and try and do that 4 times a year for a divisional opponent, that becomes real tough. So maybe you expand an entire division and they only play East Coast games where it's not that bad. I don't know. Is it possible? Anything's possible.
I think it takes away from the parity of the NFL if you start making it an inordinate burden on specific teams in the league to travel and I guess it's not just a specific team or two, but the opponents having to travel. That's a hop, skip, and a jump, man. But you know what? The NFL continues to be intent on tapping into the European market because Europe's rich, man. There's a lot of money in Europe. There's a lot of money to be made there if you can get people in Europe actually interested in the NFL. The problem, one of many problems with NFL Europe, Scott, was that the product wasn't good enough to really excite and interest Europeans at a high enough level to justify it ever going any further. And before I lose sight of this, I just wanted to say I didn't get a chance to say, Michaela, love you, appreciate you, so generous, you the bomb, you know this.
We can't say that enough. You never have to apologize for that.
We got another legendary Super Chat superstar jumping in off the top rope, and by the way, here he is, Kayaka. Dude, where you been, big dog? Where have you been? You and I have a conversation we need to finish up. In fact, I was just thinking about you the other day. We do need to get together and talk about that thing that we were talking about. Kayaka is quality people. Hung out with him literally all day at the meet and greet, watched the game together in the stands, became a buddy, became a friend, not just community guy. So anyway, great to see you. Thank you for the super. Been wondering about you. He says, aloha, gents. I'm excited for the fresh, young staff taking shape. Although this season, I'm staying a bit neutral in lieu of my excitement early last season. LOL. Hope we re-sign Kenny Young over anyone. You know what was interesting, Scott, on this topic is, going back to the names that George Paton brought up in that team site interview on the linebackers. Kenny Young, who is also an unrestricted free agent, he didn't mention him. His name did not come up in those remarks, which tells me that for whatever reason, he's probably not front of brain for George Paton. Josie Jewell was, AJ was, and even Baron Browning and Jonas Griffith were more front of brain than bringing up Kenny Young for whatever reason. I don't know.
Maybe a midseason acquisition that poo-pooed the fact that he had to come to Denver. That didn't help right off the bat. Now, if he holds a grudge like this Irishman, it would have made a difference. Kiaka, thank you for the super. We haven't met, but I hope we will someday. And same goes for our old GLP, Gary Leeds Palmer. Thanks, Chad and Scott, for the great content. Thank you. Thank you for being here. It's an honor. I say it all the time, and not enough. It's an honor that y'all trust us. We've got almost 400 people watching right now, contributing to the chat, the show, that y'all take your time and trust us with yours, because we know how valuable time is to each and every one of you. So thank you.
Top rope, 2 Hawaiian OG legends, back-to-back super chats, Kayaka and D-Dub, Dale, a.k.a. the man, the myth, the legend. Dude, thank you so much. So generous. I mean, it's sometimes hard for us to wrap our brain around just how great our community is. Thank you so much, my brother. I'm going to be in your neck of the woods, as I mentioned, both you and Kayak. I'm going to be in your neck of the woods in March. I'm going to be in Hawaii on the Big Island. So we'll have to see if we can't find a way to meet up. I'll be there for about a week. But he says, impact. I want an impact player at any position at 9. Regardless of position, impact players make everyone else better and or others' jobs easier, including the coaches. A guy that wrecks the plans on the other side of the ball. Your impact players in this draft, great job. You demand, Dale. Scott, you were at the Senior Bowl, and I know there's obviously a lot more to this conversation than just the seniors in this class, but what's your answer for Dale?
Yeah, we could go for this one for a while. And when D-Dub's throwing down red supers, we'll spend some time on this one. So the nice thing is, unless you go quarterback, you can get an impact player. Even if you go wide receiver with someone like Trayvon Burks, I think he's an impact guy. Wide receiver out of Arkansas, 210 pounds, running 4.3 supposedly. I think you could get another corner, a long-term running mate for Pat Surtain, and then you got 2 lockdown guys. You could get Sauce Gardner out of Cincinnati, could be at that spot. Derek Stingley Jr. could be at that spot. Andrew Booth could be there. And I have questions. I don't feel like there is, and there's no, I say there's no sure thing. There's never a sure thing. Don't get me wrong. But at the edge, there's guys from Aiden Hutchinson to Kayvon Thibodeau on down where any one of those guys could end up being superstars. And any one of them could end up being Tack McKinley, who just kind of disappears. There's a lot of risk there, but there's a lot of reward. You could get your tackle. There's tackles in that spot. I don't know that you want to go defensive tackle this high, nose guard, Jordan Davis. But if I can name 5 edge rushers that could be in that spot. From George Karlaftis to David Ajabo to Jermaine Johnson to Sam Williams out of Ole Miss. Keep an eye on that kid and what he does at his pro day in the combine. He was a bouncy freak down at the Senior Bowl. So I'm really, really excited. I know people say, oh, they're poo-pooing this draft. I disagree. I think the top 5, there's question marks there. And that's why people are kind of poo-pooing this draft. You're almost better off drafting 5 to 10, 6 to 10, because it costs you about 2/3 the money, but you've got just as good a chance of getting a great player. So it's a good draft to have a lot of picks. It is so deep on the defensive line, which I love. So D-Dub, 96734. I lived in 90094 for about 9 years, so not too far from you. So thank you so much. Yeah, we certainly appreciate it.
Absolutely. I think, look, if you're not going to go quarterback, to me, and I get it. Oh, no, best player available. The best player available thing is always relative to the positions we need. GMs scouting departments, they're going to put their board together and they're going to prioritize it based on the holes and weaknesses and not just necessarily weaknesses today, but whatever, contracts are coming off the books over the next 4 or 5 years. I still, boiling it back down to positions, it's right tackle, it's edge for the value. Look, you don't know what you're going to do with Bryce Callahan yet. You don't know what you're going to do. I mean, Kyle Fuller's not coming back, but you've got Ron Darby on another couple years. He's here for sure for one more year, and Pat Surtain. So you got 2 of those positions solved. I don't think you would really necessarily need to go corner at 9, but you could. There are some role players that are under contract for 2022 that are interesting to me. But for me, it comes back, Scott, to tackle. It comes back to edge if you're not going to take a quarterback. And I'm not pounding the table for a quarterback just because no one yet has given me the warm and fuzzies. Judah Walker jumping in. We got a rapid fire because we just crossed the 50-minute mark. Judah Walker. Cam Akers, 6-month rehab from a torn ACL is amazing. That work ethic, is it the work ethic or medicine? 32 the year at least. I'm not sure the syntax on the end of that one, Scott, but yeah.
But it's changed a lot. It has gotten better. Now, depending on the damage to your ACL, for a quick twitch guy and a change of directions, it could be up to a full 18 months before you're 100%. But a 90% Cam Akers is still a lot better than most everybody else. So you can get back out there in 6 months. So if he's good now, give him another year also.
Mike Ronquillo, appreciate you, big dog. George Payton did also mention Melvin Gordon, who he brought up his fumbles, but he also brought up how much he liked the 1-2 punch and just kind of the juju he had with Javonte, and then said that he loves him. You use the word love. So that's something that if Nathaniel Hackett swoops in and looking at the film, Lana, thank you. Appreciate you. If Hackett comes to the table, in other words, and says, hey, I feel like we need Melvin for the wide zone, then they'll make an offer, but time will tell on that. And then here's when I'm going to serve this over to you, Scott, from John Houston. Thank you, big dog. Pro Football Focus compared Sam Howell to Russell Wilson. Do you like him?
That's not a bad comp. I don't remember, because Howell goes about 220. He's about 6 foot, a little bit over 6 foot, 6.5 feet, 220. Russell Wilson's not quite that big. I think he's probably got a little bit more shake. Russell's got a little bit more, a little more lateral to him. But that's not a bad comp with Sam Howell. I like Sam Howell. I do. And the fact that he's like 21 years old, where he's 3 years younger than Kenny Pickett, interests me as well. Fast forward Sam Howell 3 years from now, where is he on the Kenny Pickett scale? This age thing, it makes a difference. It really does. It doesn't to college guys because they're only getting them for 3 or 4 years anyway. I'll take a guy from 21 to 24. But if I'm drafting a quarterback, I'd rather have the 21-year-old than the 24-year-old if it's close.
Yeah. John says Locke would be a top 5 pick in this draft. To be honest, I don't think so. I really don't. There were too many questions about him. He was too much of a hot and cold quarterback for any NFL team, even in this class, I think, to
Andrew, you noticed? What are you talking about?
Yeah. Scott's been dealing with an eye deal for the last 4 days.
Started Friday night, actually.
Oh, okay. That's right. So appreciate the concern, obviously, Andrew. He says, keep a hot compress on that eye, Scott. I had many styes working with fiberglass, but talking to Nick and Carl, they feel Javonte Williams, Pookie, might have a hard time in Nathaniel Hackett's game, playbook because of his vision. With that, should Gordon stay? I think too much gets made out of that, to be honest with you. But your thoughts on Javonte in the wide zone, Scott?
It's a talking point, really. It is. It's like, okay, who are you concerned about? That might be it, because he's not necessarily a patient. That's what we saw to Melvin Gordon. Melvin Gordon will take a breath. He's got the experience to know if I'm patient, something will open up, and I trust myself to be able to get to it. I saw that from Javonte Williams towards the end of the season. I saw him get experience and take leaps and bounds. So I think if you ask them what you thought, and ask them when they come back on, when they ask Nick and Carl, what do you think? Do you think he can do it? Do you think he will be successful? My guess is they're going to say yes. They're going to say, yeah, he's going to be successful. But it's just something to watch out for.
George, appreciate you. You the man, big dog. Really do appreciate that. Maybe I sounded a little too dismissive, a little too first world on my Super Bowl comment. I would definitely go. That's just not my first love. That's not what I got into this business for. That's not what really floats my boat, so to speak, being where the action's at. Phil jumping in to say, evening, Chad and Scott. Any thoughts on getting Desmond King in free agency? Might be a good addition to the slot. Scott?
I don't have any thoughts on that one at all. I apologize. I'm not overly familiar with him as a player.
He's okay. He had 1 or 2 decent years. Yeah, but they're going to have to do something. I would definitely be open to examining him, but I don't know. Fangio's gone, so maybe Bryce tries to follow him, but I would definitely try and get Bryce Callahan in here. But it's a little bit of a back in here, a little bit of a pickle though, because his value, he has a hard time staying on the field. So how do you value him in a contract? But when he's on the field, he's a top 2 or 3 slot corner in the league. Tom El Greco up in Canada. What's up? Good to see you, bro. Hey, guys, if Locke won the last 3 games, would we be talking about other quarterbacks? Thanks, boys. Well, look, if Locke won the final 3 games, one of those wins would have been against the Kansas City Chiefs, and that would have been monumental in terms of hype ending this season. I still think the whole Aaron Rodgers thing, the whole Nathaniel Hackett connection, that would still be the main talking point, but he would have done a lot to help himself had he managed to pull that off.
All right, this guy would have for sure. I'm still hearing about this 4-1 stretch in 5 games where he threw 7 touchdowns and 3 interceptions as if it was godlike with about an 85 quarterback rating. Okay? He didn't win those games. So if he goes out and throws 4 touchdowns a game for 3 games, he goes 12-1 on touchdowns and interceptions. Now we're talking. If he goes out and throws 2 touchdowns in 3 games with no turnovers and they win 17-13, I'm still looking to upgrade the quarterback position. Doesn't mean I will, but you should always be looking to upgrade every position. Don't get me wrong. But again, the quarterback play has been so poor in Denver right now that we're revising history. We really are.
Juero, good to see you, my friend. Appreciate you. Scott has been a great addition to the pod. Keeps thinking logical when we get emotional. Scott is really good at that. That's also why he and Nick make a good team. They're both kind of pragmatic, analytical thinkers. Also, shout out to Dylan in the chat for keeping us in check when emotional. Appreciate that, Juero. Gerald Hill, very generous super chat. Great to see you, my friend.
Gerald?
He likes Trevor Penning at 9, the tackle from Northern Iowa.
Chad, I just posted his video on my channel. I could share it here if you want to see a couple plays.
Yeah, get it queued up, and I'll grab a few more here. And he likes Julian Johnson and Rock with Locke. We'll see, buddy. We'll see. We're about out of time, though. We got to stay pretty on the nose for the 1 hour mark because it is my wife's B-day. Got to be a good husband.
Oh,
I
goodness.
got to go get that done. Judah Walker, but I want let's get that queued up, Scott. Here's Trevor.
And this
Penning.
is actually him at guard, which doesn't get talked about enough.
How tall is he?
He's 6'7", and that's Perion Winfrey he just buried. Perion Winfrey had an amazing week. This is him at left tackle. And you see he's a little on the nasty side. He slung him down. He about killed Desmond Ridder on that play because he threw it right into his legs. But here he is again at guard, which, like I said, that doesn't get talked about enough. He's 6'7". You see how low to the ground he is?
Boom.
So
I think he's going to go a lot higher than people think.
He's not quite the athlete that Spencer Brown is, but he's powerful. And this is a 220-pound linebacker that he's, that is coming off the edge. Those guys are hard to deal with in those one-on-one type situations. So, yeah, Trevor Penning is definitely someone to keep an eye out for sure.
Judah Walker, if Vaughn wins another Super Bowl MVP, do you think he'll be the GOAT of defensive players? I mean, no. But he already is a GOAT of.
You're talking about someone who grew up with LT.
Yeah,
I grew up with the 56. I grew up with Lawrence Taylor. Lawrence Taylor is arguably the greatest football player of all time. Period.
Still the
I don't
last
think he is, but
defensive
I certainly put him in the argument.
LT, if I'm not mistaken, also still the last defense player to win league MVP. 86.
He changed it. Talk about me and Nick. Said, I grew up when linebackers were cool. Mike Singletary, Lawrence Taylor, and he doesn't like linebackers at all. So we differ there.
Lawrence, and we got to get going, guys. So how can Byron Allen buy the Broncos, only being worth $400 million? Because he'll get a buying group together. He'll get a conglomerate of investors to scratch together the money, and he'll be the point guy / in his case, probably shake it out to where he is majority owner. So what would you need, Scott? Maybe 10 to 12 other investors?
I think you need 10% in order to be like the shot caller.
Yeah.
Is what it is. Even if it's just one other guy, you've got to be in there. You've got to have 10% skin in the game. That's why we talk about the Mannings. The Mannings don't have it, but if they can come up with 400 million between them, 500 million between them, then they can become the shot callers, so to speak. Someone else might be the money.
Yep.
Hey, listen, I'm a billionaire and I want to make another billion. Here's 3 billion, turn it into 5. Okay. You do that by buying an NFL franchise. I don't want to run it. I don't know anything about this game. You do it.
On Twitch, always want to get at least one Twitch in on the chat each and every night. RAL Blitz. Can you really see as many franchise Qs on the market in Kyler, Wilson, and Rodgers? Surely we swing for the fences on any one of them. Even Garoppolo is the best option the market has seen in a while, apart from Brady and Stafford. Well, none of the names you mentioned are free agents, including Garoppolo. Garoppolo's under contract.
Mm-hmm.
So that alters the equation. Now, Brady, he was a free agent. Stafford, he had to be traded. But I don't think Kyler's leaving Arizona. I don't think Wilson's leaving Seattle. I still think it's 50-50. Rodgers leaves. Maybe 60-40 he stays. But I still think that's a very open possibility. Scott, we're going to grab Nathan because we got to get out of here. 2022 draft in Las Vegas, 2023 draft in Kansas City. Do you think Denver has a shot to host the draft since they don't seem to be a Super Bowl destination? Scott, your thoughts?
I think the weather is too big of a concern for the Super Bowl. When you can run into, we had an ice storm here in 2000 in Atlanta, and they swore they'd never come back here.
Yeah, but he's talking draft.
Blizzard in Denver.
Could you get the draft in Denver?
Right. So yes, so that's a good way to try and make that up. However, if the draft is in the end of April, that should be safe. I'm thinking combine, which is that's big time snow season in Denver. In March. I think that would be a good way to, again, we talk about what's fair and what's not to help balance that out. So you can't get a Super Bowl, but yeah, let's throw you a draft for sure.
Scott, can you see if you can find Lawrence Rivera's question? I'd hate to have to kick that can down the road till tomorrow, even though he said it's cool if you do. I want to try and grab that before we go.
Yeah, if you can tell me what time, it makes it real easy. You want to say thanks again to Michael again, real quick, coming in with some stars. One of Lawrence's questions was, how would he rank compared to other owners' wealth? Well, when you consider, I don't know if that was the one, Lawrence. You have a couple of questions in here, but how would he rank among other owners' wealth? You consider they're lumping in the franchise as part of their wealth. Part of Jerry Jones's wealth is the fact that he owns all of that Dallas Cowboys stuff.
Right. He would, as a minority owner, they're straight up. The Daniel Snyders, as you mentioned, Jerry, the Kraft. There's Shad Khan, the new guy, I forget his name, David, whatever, in Carolina, David. True billionaires. So as far as the scratch net worth, he'd be small potatoes individually compared to some of the billionaire boys in the club. But guys, we gotta bounce on out of here. Appreciate each and every one of you for spending some time with Scott and I here on the Huddle Up podcast. An 11th hour super chat from Plum Bob. Appreciate that. He said, Scott said early in the show that he's a big soccer fan. Just wanted to say, go Liverpool. I don't know how you feel about that. Well, there you go. He's not down for that.
I actually like Liverpool's a fun team to watch. They're a good team. If you're going to start a team to watch right now, they play a fun version of the game. I'm a Chelsea fan, but I'm new to the game. I'm new to international football, so I didn't grow up hating Liverpool or anything. And people from we won't talk soccer anymore. Liverpool's okay with me. I'm a Chelsea guy.
Dude, I'm just breaking your cojones. It's all good. You don't need to worry about it. Guys, before we get on out of here, we'll do an update tomorrow. We kind of got carried away in the conversation. We'll do an update tomorrow on where things stand for the Facebook Stars contest raffle and the Super Chat rankings. For now, we want to tip our caps to Joshua throwing down stars
That was
tonight.
the big one.
Big dog. Thank you. Michael, Travis, Shane, Lana, Rodney, Leaf, Gary, Phil, Andrew, Lawrence Rivera, George DeAngelis. We missed DeAngelis, and Tommy, Wyatt Horning. Much love and respect to each and every one of you. Don't forget to follow the podcast on Twitter at Huddle Up Pod. Make sure you're following us on Facebook. All right. Facebook.com/Mile High Huddle. You can choose to become a supporter if you click the big blue button on our Facebook page, and that actually gives you access to our 3 VIP podcast shows each and every week, including Broncos Book Club with yours truly, The Trickle Zone, and Kelberman's Corner. And then also, guys, we really need you to go give the Huddle Up Podcast Facebook page a follow. Big plans for that page. And then a shout out here, and we'll dip on out to these great superstars for the support tonight. Unc Shea, Rod TV, Kevin, Wilson the Ghost, T-Man, Nathan, Dennis, the Duchess, Judah, Kayaka, John Houston, Tom, Huero, D-Dub the Legend, Gerald, and Nathan again, Plum Bob. Much love and respect. Scott, he's saying here, let's get a tackle, maybe 2 to DeAngelis. Let's get this O-line stout and strong.
And Kiaka mentioned some names. I want to throw one more. If Kyle Hamilton, the safety, ends up falling to 9 because people get prejudiced against safeties, you want Kyle Hamilton. Bring him in. I don't care where you play him. Put him at edge. Put him at edge, but get Kyle Hamilton. But DeAngelis, yes, I think you should come out of this draft with at least 2 offensive linemen, at least 2, including maybe an interior line. You want an interior and an edge guy, so a tackle and a guard center for me.
Guys, follow Scott on Twitter at Scout Kennedy. You can follow me at Chad N. Jensen. Follow Zach Kelberman at Kelberman NFL. And with that, we're going to dip on out. Go get a 5-star rating in too for the Huddle Up Podcast on Apple Pods. When you do, maybe the Huddle Up Podcast is not your favorite show. Maybe you like Broncos for Breakfast the most. Maybe it's Building the Broncos or one of the other shows. It's all under one RSS feed. So when you leave us a review under the Huddle Up Podcast on Apple Pods, it counts for everybody. So go leave us a 5-star review and enter yourself into our monthly raffle. All right, we'll raffle that at the end of this month. Scott, thanks for peeling off some time, bro. It was great talking with you. The debut of Chad and Scott.
Yeah, I'm glad I could hop in. If we didn't get to all of the supers and stars, we will make it up to you. I promise. Nick and I will be on Broncos for Breakfast tomorrow. Just hit us up. Hit us up for sure. Hit us up on Twitter again, and appreciate you having me on, Chad. Great host.
All right, guys. Appreciate you, my friend. For Scott Kennedy, for Zach Kelberman, I'm Chad Jensen. We'll see you tomorrow night. We'll see if Zach will be back. Go Broncos.